What is up, Blue Demon fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Demon Banter podcast brought to you by WeAreDePaul. And we got a great episode in store today. We'll preview DePaul's loss to St. John's the other night, and we'll preview the Providence game on Saturday with the great Rich. Rich, how we doing today?
We're doing good. How are you, Joey?
I'm fantastic, ready to, talk about DePaul and Providence. Two teams that bottom barrel of the Big East right now in terms of their conference standing, but could be an exciting game, don't you think, Rich?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really interesting game because it's a game of polar opposites. DePaul wants to slow you down, play really good defense. Providence wants to play with pace. They don't necessarily play great defense. They want to put points on the board. So these two teams really are an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and Holtman today in his media availability basically said he thinks they're a very, very talented group on offense. He praised their offense, praised them. You mentioned how great they are offensively. Ken Palm has them 26th in offensive rating. So I just want to get your kind of thoughts. You watch them and everything. How talented is this offense when everything is kind of clicking?
So it's an interesting offense because they don't really run a lot of sets.
Hmm.
It's a four-out offense, very free-flowing. They leave it to the players to kind of make decisions. DePaul fans, what you're going to look for is a lot of one-on-one basketball. They've got three or four guys that will take the ball at the top of the key on the perimeter and look to make a move and take you off the dribble going to the rim. They draw a lot of fouls. Providence gets to the line a lot, and they're number one in the Big East in free throw shooting percentage. So when they get there, they make you pay. Stopping that is really difficult. Dan Hurley with UConn, Rick Pitino with St. John's, both said their defense has had trouble stopping those one-on-one drives to the rim.
Yeah, that I feel like is going to be a big key in this game. And DePaul has a habit of fouling. It's been a problem for them a lot in Big East play. So it seems like if Providence drives and they're fouling, Providence is going to make you pay at the line. And teams have recently made DePaul pay at the line. I remember a couple weeks ago, Georgetown went to the line in that game that they lost. Georgetown made 17 of 19 free throws. So. It's going to be key to stop that DePaul, but I think this is a good matchup for DePaul because they're one of the best teams in the whole country in 2-point field goal percentage against. They are
Yes.
29th in 2-point field goal percentage against. So if they're driving, if DePaul can find a way to not foul and play straight up, I think Providence gonna have a hard time making buckets in this game. But before we dive in deeper into Providence and DePaul Saturday's game, big game, I want to talk a little bit about where both teams are at coming into this game. I'll start with DePaul, excuse me, and then Rich, you could go in about Providence. But first with DePaul, they things were going good for them. They were on a high. It was January. They won 4 of 6 games. They beat Georgetown, Xavier, Marquette, Seton Hall, a big win at home. And then things kind of been different for DePaul, losing 3 straight games, losing to Georgetown and Xavier on the road, and then losing to St. John's on Tuesday night. In that game against St. John's on Tuesday, DePaul was in it in the first half. They were in it. I thought they played well defensively in the first half. Offense could have been better on offense, but defensively they played well. And then things kind of unraveled for them in the second half. And Holtman has continues to say, we need to play a good 40 minutes. We need to play a full 40 minutes. And it hasn't happened like that often. Seton Hall is a great example of them playing a full 40 minutes. It resulted in a win at home against a Seton Hall team that, probably in the bubble right now in the tournament field. But not a full 40 minutes for DePaul in that game. And then too many careless turnovers. They had 15 turnovers, 20 points off turnover for St. John's. And they offensive rebounding for St. John's. It felt like they were every possession getting an offensive rebound, 15 offensive rebounds. And I know you probably know about St. John's and their attack on the offensive glass, but it was a rough game for DePaul. I didn't believe they were going to win that game, but when they were how close they were at halftime, I thought it was going to be competitive in the second half, and you kind of saw DePaul went on a cold stretch, didn't score a point in over 7 minutes at one point early in the second half. St. John's came away 12-0 run during that stretch, and then the rest was kind of all St. John's the rest of the half. So DePaul's got to clean things up. The road woes have been noticeable. 0-6 on the road in conference play. Something that you have to take notice of. Holman doesn't think too much of it, but you have to take notice of it. Have yet to win a road game. So a lot going to this game for DePaul. They could do it against Providence. Can they put it all together? But I want to get some thoughts, Rich, from you about Providence. What a game for them the other night against Butler. Like, what a game. You were there. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your overall thoughts about that game against Butler and coming away with the victory in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, Providence was chasing most of the game. And when Finley Bizjack, who was 12 for 12 from the free
Yeah.
throw line, went to the line with 1.2 seconds left and the score tied in regulation, I thought it was another loss, right? You expect him to make one of two at least. And if he does, Butler wins that game. He misses both. It goes into overtime, then it goes into double overtime, and the Friars scored the first 10 points in the second overtime to win the game. Uh, but Providence all season has been losing these heartbreaking kind of games. Now, DePaul kind of reminds me a little bit of Seton Hall. Struggled to score a little bit, but plays really good defense.
Hmm.
Seton Hall came into the AMP earlier, beat Providence 72-67. That's the only game this year where the opponent has really held Providence's offense down that way. All of the other losses have been of the 95 to 90 variety.
Yeah.
So Providence is like pouring in points, but not stopping anybody. And by not executing down the stretch, by not getting stops down the stretch, it's led to a number of really tough end of game losses.
Yeah. I want to ask you because obviously 3-9, they're tied with Marquette for the worst record in the Big East, but
Yeah.
they, they went to St. John's, they beat them. They beat Creighton at home. Just what type of team do you think shows up on Saturday? Is this the type of team that plays well one day and then the next day they're completely a different team?
A lot is going to depend on number one, who's in the lineup on Saturday. At the end of the Butler game, Stefan Vox tweaked his knee with about a minute 30 in the first overtime, didn't return. Jalen Sellers, who scored 36 points and really led that victory, was limping pretty noticeably with a foot ankle thing going on. That was Wednesday night. Who knows if one or both or either are there or not on Saturday. Corey Floyd Jr. missed the game Wednesday night with a concussion. Jason Edwards, who was leading the Big East in scoring, has been out for 6, 7 games with plantar fasciitis. A lot is going to depend on who's available to play. Now, I will say that despite the 3-9 Big East record, the 10-13 overall record, this team has not quit on Kim English. They are playing hard. They're just not in every game. They're just not necessarily executing down the stretch. It's not that they're playing good one game, bad the next game, that they're playing hard every game. They're just not putting it together.
What are your thoughts on Kim English and the job that he's done this year? Does he get fired at the end of the year? Like, is he on the hot seat? Like, what's your kind of overall like opinions about that?
I hate to speculate about someone's job
Hmm.
because they're human
Yeah,
beings.
of course.
Kim's a good guy. It's impossible. I don't know what's going to happen at the end
Hmm.
of the year. But given that they lost 20 games last year for only the second time in PC history, first time in 40 years, given what's gone on this year, it's hard to imagine that the seat isn't very hot.
Yeah.
A lot, I think, is going to depend on these next 10 games that close out the season.
Yeah, I think that's key. Obviously, big matchup against DePaul. I know you mentioned a little bit about it. Do you think like Sellers plays in this game? Like, what are you kind of thinking about that? Obviously, you mentioned the injury. Do you think he goes? Because he's obviously a big part of what Providence does on offense.
Yeah, and with Edwards out, I mean that's another big bucket that's
Yeah.
out of the game. And Sellers is one of those guys who, he'll hit the three, but he's one of those guys that takes it hard to the basket.
Okay.
Sellers, Vox, and Jameer Jones. are the three guys that DePaul fans should watch out for. Take note in this game. If they're getting the ball at the top of the key and looking to just drive it, those are the three guys. Ryan Mila would be a fourth, but he doesn't drive with the same violence that those three do. Does Jalen Sellers play? He's a warrior mentality. He's a dog. I think he tries to play. Hopefully, he's healthy. Will you know? I'm really interested. 3 hours before the game, so
Hmm.
1 o'clock Eastern time will be the availability report. I'm interested to see who's on it.
Yeah, that's gonna be key. It seems like Providence dealing with some injuries. DePaul, they're healthy right now. Like they're not dealing with any major injuries. Obviously, their freshman Cruz McClure continues to deal with a hip injury, but he's played in each of the past 4 games. So DePaul relatively healthy. Providence not. Obviously, if Providence doesn't have some of those big time scorers, it's this line that Providence is favored by. I think it's 5.5 or something like that. It could flip really fast because those players are big time players, like you mentioned. But let's now get into some of the gameplay, DePaul, Providence in this game. I'm excited for it. I think this is a matchup of what's going to be better, Providence's offense, DePaul's defense. We talked about it a little bit. Providence very good offensively on Ken Palm. They are ranked 26th on Ken Palm. Like that signals they're a very good offense. And DePaul on defense has been their staple. Holman has kind of pushed it on his players like we're gonna lead by defense. We win games by defense. DePaul, 54th in defensive rating on Ken Palm. Offense, defense. Rich, in games like this, who who kind of has the edge? Is it the defense? Is it the offense? Who has the edge?
Well, Seton Hall certainly did
Yep.
in that game, and again, DePaul reminds me a little bit of Seton Hall in both on offense and defense. You know, offense can come and go, defense travels, defense wins championships. Those are the sayings that we've always heard. It's going to be, you don't ever shut anybody completely down in basketball.
Yeah.
Guys are going to score. So it's going to be, can DePaul hold Providence down enough and score enough to keep up with what Providence is putting up on the board? Providence may not put their usual 90 up, but if they put 75 to 80 up, can DePaul match that? Now, if you look at Providence's defensive rankings, 3-point defense and overall defensive efficiency, not very good. DePaul is going to probably get more open 3-point looks than they're used to. What DePaul does with those 3-point looks may very well determine the game.
Yeah, Providence, you mentioned. They rank 359th in 3-point field goals. Opponents make 3-point. Opponents average 10.2 3-point or per game, which is 359th in the country. 27 3-point attempts per game, 333rd in the country. And their
Yep.
3-point field goal percentage against, they rank 352nd in the country. Those are bad. We know those are bad. Those are bad. So the problem
Now,
is though,
I
yeah,
will say that in the last few games, I have seen improvement
okay.
in Providence's defense. I think it's moving in the right direction. It was really bad earlier in the year. But I mean, against Butler, for example, it ended up being 97-87, but at the end of regulation it was
Okay.
73-73, which is reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Now, Butler is not a strong offensive team, and it was really a slog that game.
Yeah.
This is going to be a game where whoever can control the tempo and pace is going to have the big advantage.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny that the Province is not good, defending the 3-point, but DePaul is not good shooting the 3-point ball. Like
Right,
they're not good. So, but
right.
something's got to give, right? Like
Something's going to give.
yeah, is DePaul going to be red hot from three, or is Providence going to step up and stop him from three? DePaul, I feel like they've had open looks all season from three. You saw it in the St. John's game. You saw it at Xavier when they blew the 18-point lead. They have the open shots. They just don't make them. And
Right.
that's just because they just don't have the shooters on the outside. Like Cruz McClure, their freshman, he's probably one of their better 3-point shooters, but since battling through that hip injury and coming back from 2 concussions, it's not there. He's 2 for 15 from the field since returning from injury over his past 4 games. That's not good. And you have RJ Smith, great shooter. Teo, who has been starting for DePaul, has been great from three. But outside of them, inconsistent. Like CJ Gunn, he has his great games, but then he'll be cold from the field. You have NJ Benson, who only works in the inside. Leighton Blocker also up and down with 3-point shooting. But something's got to give in this game. DePaul, 3-point shooting. They rank 214th in the country in 3-point field goal makes per game, 215th
Yeah.
in the country in 3-point field goals attempts per game, and 197th in 3-point field goals percentage per game. So not bad. Like it's bad in a sense, but it could be better. But they're not worse. Like they're somewhere lower to middle of the half. So it's going to be interesting. I think this could be a game where DePaul does get hot from three, but I think it's going to come down to, like you mentioned earlier, it's going to come down to the can DePaul stop Providence driving? Can they limit those fouls? I think that's going to be a big key for DePaul. And on the other end, on offense, got to be stop working it through the middle, work it out outside, and play kind of in and out. I guess for the Providence side of thing, what's the key for them to winning a home game against DePaul?
Well, I think definitely drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. They shot 39 free throws against Butler. Um, and those drives are so physical and violent that they are very difficult to stop without committing a foul.
Hmm.
The best defenses that Providence has gone up against this year, like I said, UConn,
Yep.
St. John's, the coaches are like, we didn't know what to do. Our defense was in position. They just could not stop them from getting to the rim or to score or fouling. The other key for Providence is dominating on the glass. Providence, DePaul has been a little weak this
Hmm.
season rebounding. Providence is a very good rebounding team. Um, Oswin Irumse, it has been the last 4 or 5 games. He's put up double figure rebounds every game. Ryan Mila had 10 last game along with Oswin. Jameer is rebounding. Jameer Jones had 7 last game. They're a strong rebounding team. Control the boards. Don't give DePaul second chances, and that increases Providence's chances to win.
Yeah, DePaul is not a great rebounding team. It's something that Holtman's been saying for weeks to us. The media have been saying to us for weeks. We need to rebound better. We need to do a better job at that, and that's been the case. Obviously, I mentioned St. John's, 15 offensive rebounds in that game. DePaul ranks 281st in the country in total rebounds per game. Providence, you mentioned it, man. They're top 50 in both total rebounds and defensive rebounds per game. DePaul has to box out, and they have to just be careless with the ball on offense. Too many, careless turnovers is going to hurt them. It hurt them against St. John's. They have to be cleaner on that end, and then they need to go on the road to win a game. They need to go on the road to win a game. It's simple as that. They haven't done it this year. Their best chance comes against Providence, like it does. Like this is their best chance to do it. Only 5.5-point underdogs as of this recording, so they have a shot to do it. And I want to now ask you for your game prediction. Obviously, I know DePaul. You know Providence. Will you be there on Saturday?
Well, I'm the official scorekeeper, so I better be there.
Okay, you'll be there, official scorekeeper. Give me your
Yep.
prediction. Providence, DePaul, what is your heart telling you who wins this game?
If Providence is healthy,
Okay.
if their key players are in the lineup, I think Providence comes out ahead in this game only because I think they've got a little bit too much offensive firepower for DePaul to keep pace with.
Okay.
If Providence is missing some key players, I think DePaul has the capability to squeeze out a close victory.
Yeah, I think this is if DePaul wins this game, I obviously backed by the defense, but I think if they win this game, they'll do just enough on offense to get it done because the offense has been inconsistent, but we've seen them win close, tight games before. They beat Georgetown at home, a tight game.
Yep.
If they're gonna do it, they're gonna do just enough offensively. They've been in ugly games before. I'm gonna go with DePaul. I think it's gonna be a close game though. I think Providence is gonna be able to score a little bit against them, but I think at the end of the day, I think DePaul's gonna tidy up on defense and they're gonna score just enough on offense. It's gonna be a good game though. And I wanted to ask one more question before we get out of here. I want to
Sure.
ask you where do you have DePaul and Providence finishing in the Big East come time, Big East tournament play?
Huh. That's a great question. So Right now, Providence is tied for last.
Yes.
Providence has not finished in last place in the Big East since 1982.
Wow.
In the Since the Big East change in 2013, since the new Big East
Yeah.
began, for a 10-year period from 2013 to 2023, Providence was third in the Big East in wins,
Wow.
behind Villanova and Creighton. So these last 2 years have really been very un-Friar-like.
Yeah.
So I think the schedule for Providence lightens up in the second half of the season compared to what they faced in the first half. So I do think they are going to raise up out of where they are right now. I do think that there's going to be a few more wins. I could see they're 3-9. I could see seven-ish wins
Okay.
in that, another 4 or 5 wins maybe. Um, it's they put themselves in a hole, so it's
Yeah.
tough. I'm really bad at predictions, so that's about the most that I'll say. And DePaul, from what I've seen, I think they've got capabilities for another 3 or 4 wins themselves. So I think both teams might be looking at that seven-ish win area and come final standings.
Yeah, that's exactly where I have DePaul. I have them finishing with somewhere between 7 and 8 wins. I think that's a good range for them. But I'm excited for this game on Saturday. I think this is a good matchup for both sides. Offense, defense, what gives, right, Rich? But thank you for coming
One other
on.
thing, one
Yes.
other thing. It'll be interesting to see the crowd on Saturday
Okay. Yes.
because we're getting some snow.
Ooh.
So that may hold the crowd down a little bit from what we usually get. I mean, I got to give it to Friar fans. There were 8,100 in the building on a freezing Wednesday night against a sort of a bottom of the barrel Big East team in Butler, um, in a down season. So
Yeah.
the fans are still coming out. Whether the weather plays a part in holding it down a little bit on, tomorrow, we'll see.
It's going to be an interesting game, Rich. But thank you so much for coming on. And this is going to do it on this episode of the Blue Demon Banter podcast, brought to you by We Are DePaul. Do not forget to subscribe to our free newsletter on the WeAreDePaul.com. It's completely free to do so. You get to see and read the latest Blue Demon news every single day. But let's go DePaul. Let's get a win on Saturday. Go Blue Demons.